Can you make a living off gold prospecting? This is the question that I had set out to answer at the start of my week. Obviously this will depend on where you live around the world, but I had set out some basic rules. The first few days I was only allowed to use simple hand tools, and at the end of the week I would be allowed to use some more advanced technology like metal detectors. Because your definition and my definition and other people's definitions of making a living vary wildly, I'd set out some parameters. What I wanted to achieve was make enough money through gold prospecting to be able to afford a week's worth of food and some basic shelter.
I've done 3 days of hard alluvial prospecting, and it's finally time to switch gears for the final 2 days of my week of can I make a living off gold. And I'm switching it in the only way I know how, and that is metal detecting and hard rock mining for gold ore. There are tens of thousands of abandoned gold mines dotted right across the northeast of Victoria. These can be fantastic places to check for specimens that were discarded in the waste rock, but what I'm interested in particularly today is hunting some gold ore. There's no guarantee that this rock is going to have any gold in it whatsoever, but if you don't look and sample, you'll never know. And if you hit the right reef, you can come out with ounces of gold a lot easier than you ever will from panning or metal detecting. And for the first time of the week, blue skies and sun. I just came across this mine, and there's good evidence of recent metal detecting here with people not filling in their dig holes. But that's not really what I'm interested in for this particular mine. I don't care so much about the potential gold ore that's left in the waste rock right now. I want to hunt the creek line below it, because this reef will have been shedding for hundreds of thousands of years, and there might be gold on the hillside below it. You can see people have been in here poking around. Someone has tried to light a fire to burn the face here, which is a good indicator that maybe this section here has some gold in it. Oh, I would love to take you in there, but this is super sketchy. Can you see how there is a nice big crack on this sheet of rock? I don't want to wiggle my way into that hole and have this come down, especially because that is just loose topsoil. It's not hard bedrock. Because if I move down this line of mines, yeah, if I get stuck down there, I'm stuck in there. The third hole in this series is completely collapsed, so I can walk in here and actually show you what's going on. That is a huge quartz dike that's come up, and it sheared this bedrock. 99.99% of all gold is associated with quartz, but 99.999999% of all quartz has no gold. And quartz is also the second most abundant mineral on Earth, meaning that almost all of it that you see is worthless, even in a gold mine. If we stand back and look at their working face, do you notice anything unusual? Because the most obvious thing to me is that hole right there. They've obviously sampled a little bit here, and they've cleaned this face up, but then they deep dived in over here. And what I found is most amateur prospectors, including myself when I first started, would hunt the quartz that they left in the face like this. But most of the quartz, again, even in a gold mine, has no gold. What you're really looking for, at least in my area, is this highly decayed vein structure. You can see that they've dived down on this. Yeah, that's the stuff. In my testing, the more decayed the vein is, the more the presence of arsenopyrites, pyrites, iron, and other sort of minerals that are associated with gold tend to be in that vein, and the greater your chances of recovering gold are. So whilst that doesn't look like what you're meant to be chasing, most people tend to hunt this. I would strongly suggest if you're in a gold mine and you see where old timers have dived in on something that looks like clay, chase it. I'm going to come back later for a sample of this. For now, we're going to leave the mine behind because we know that's where every other person has picked over, and we're going to go downstream. Generally speaking, the way those mines were found was because someone was panning down in a river at the bottom of the valley, and they followed the gold up into the hills. And that means that if there was a gold mine found at the top of this hill, there's probably alluvial workings below it. Beautiful little loaming pit here. You can see that they've taken a nice big sample trying to chase where the lode deposit was up there. Ooh, that reef must have come down this ridge a fair way, because we've got heaps more workings. Oh wow, that looks like that had a roof on it at one stage. Look at that. See how all these are perfectly straight and laid out? That looks like that came across here at one point. Yeah, look, this would have been a structure, because we've got, like, this is all put together. I've never seen anything like that. Most of this stuff in this area has been burnt well before I get to it. That mine might very well be worth checking out. Again, I want to get down to the creek. Oh, I'll be stuffed. There's actually water here. Huh. We've had enough rain over the last little bit to make these really dry gullies hold a bit of moisture. Other than a few little test holes here and there, I haven't seen any major alluvial workings. I think we're going to go back to the mines and detect them. I haven't discovered gold, but I have discovered an affordable house made by a bug and lead. I can pretty much promise you that I'm going to dig up hundreds of shotgun pellets, bits of wire and crud. Maybe today I'll be lucky enough to find something gold colored in these piles. Several bullets, several pieces of melted lead and a few other pieces of scrap iron later, and I've moved away from the mines and I'm starting to find far more interesting things. Look at the size of that bullet. I wonder what caliber that is. If you know, le bloop. The mines are up behind me and I'm working on the slope in front of them. My theory is, as the water eroded this gully in, there's a chance that it cut across and shed out some of the quartz from the hillside, which is what I'm seeing here. We've got heaps of pieces of quartz just littering this face. Even though all I'm finding at the moment is parts of bullets. I'm not exactly sure how many of these rounds I've dug up so far, but it's quite a lot. This hole in the ground is very interesting. I got a little signal in here, which is a piece of scrap metal, but what drew me to this hole was this. So this is old. It's got moss growing on it, right? That takes a long time to happen. Someone back in the day stacked this rock up separately to where they were throwing their waste rock. When trying to decipher mine sites like this, I think about how I would work personally. This isn't big enough to be like a retaining wall, and there's no need for a retaining wall here. It's also not neatly stacked, and it's a higgledy-piggledy size of rock. Every single bit here has some level of mineralization and quartz. And I'm thinking that maybe this was their sample pile. Maybe this is what they were stacking up to process later. And for whatever reason, maybe they found a richer part of the drive that was easier to access, or maybe this just wasn't rich enough for them. Has no relevance on me today. I think that's potential ore that they stacked up for future processing, because it's so separated. And this hole is at the head of the series of mines. I'm really over digging bullets. You wait till you see how many bullets I've dug so far. There has been no gold, but we are going to take a sample out of this pile of rock. It looks suspicious enough for me to take a small test. Someone put the effort in all those years ago to make this happen, so maybe we'll take a really good cross sample. We've got a nice big hunk of quartz here. Take that. We've got quartz and bedrock mixed together here. Take a couple of smaller pieces along with us. That's heavy enough. Before I go, we also have to take a quartz sample out of the mine. And I'm definitely going to hit the one that I showed you before. I want to see if my theory stays true for this area, because I know for a certain fact in the past, when I've taken that decayed stuff, I've got good gold. When I take the quartz that's nice and hard and solid, I usually don't get anything at all. It's super interesting looking stuff. Plenty of iron in it. That right there, ladies and gentlemen, is why it's so dangerous walking around in the bush. From the surface, you can't even tell that there is nothing under your feet. And when I say nothing, that is micro thin. I've been out collecting quartz samples for processing, and this is just such a good display of why you got to be so careful around here. Look, right? Inch markings. There's 5 inches of soil there. 5 inches, that's it. You would never know from the top. You would never know. Do you want an affordable forever box? All you've got to do is walk over that thin piece of ground at the back there. That is sketchy. That is so sketchy. I wonder how breakable it actually is. Oh yeah. Yep. Since filming that video, many months have passed and it took me an eternity to find the right buckets. In this bucket we have all of the ore I collected out of the little test pit I found down the hillside. And on this side we've got all the ore I collected out of that soft decaying vein. And in this pan I've got the cleanup results from the rocker box from the first part of this series. Now I made a full video on me cleaning this gold up to this stage and I will link that in the description below. So before Bob shows you the gold that's sitting in this pan and we find out how much money I made, I have to process a portion of each of these buckets. Remember, the idea of this video series is to see if I can make a basic living off gold prospecting. Part of that is sampling for hard rock. Honestly, I think most of the money is going to come out of the alluvial stream prospecting that I've been doing. But if this bucket or this bucket contain any amount of gold at all, the hypothesis means that I could go back and potentially work it. So I'm not looking to crush the entire bucket. I just want to know if there is gold in them. I'm thinking I'm just going to grab these little bits. I'm thinking the little bits make sense. They're just going to be a little bit quicker to crush up. They'll give me a good indication if there is gold in it. And if there is, I can crush some bigger bits. That looks like a decent overall sample size. See the sulfide pockets in it, and the sulfide pockets are what tend to carry the gold. Like, you'll see the gold mixed in this black material here, not necessarily in the quartz. Fernie, I am going to require you to move though, because you are right where the dust is going to come out. Like super cereal, bro. Breath forever. A respirator would be way easier. So much easier. Those who know my channel well know that I don't really care about getting this down to powder if I'm just sampling, which is all I'm doing. And the wheelbarrow of doom needs more water. It's a good sign. We're starting to get some nice sulfides poking out in the corner of the pan. That heavy mineralization is what carries our gold, so there's hope. What I'm trying to demonstrate in this video is that metal detecting and prospecting for hard rock is far harder than hunting for the alluvial stuff in rivers or streams. And whilst a lot of people think if you get a metal detector you're just going to find big nuggets, it is far more difficult than that. And so you might be able to make a living off metal detecting in hard rock in certain areas, but in areas like mine, it's much more productive just to go to a river. At any rate, let's find out if there is any gold. Plenty of sulfides in there. Very dark, means it's probably been through a few bushfires if it's been sitting up on the wall like that. The rock tends to... No way, is that? That is a mad piece of gold right there. Look at that. We've got a couple of really small pieces of gold, the flower gold, but we've got this really nice little picker. That's beautiful. Unreal. Apparently, the old timers have kept that aside for a reason. The little chunk is nice, but it's definitely low grade ore. That's probably why it was left on the side. Right, let's do a similar size sample of the stuff I dug out of the main vein. At any rate, once we finish doing this little processing, we're going to weigh up the gold I got from my rocker box, which is what I'm really excited to see. You know what, I need a bigger pan. I can't do this in this pan. The base size of your pan is so important, no one talks about it. Anyway, let's actually see if there's some gold in this one. Alright, we do have sulfides, we've got a lot of them actually. No gold, none. Now we know why they left this alone and why this was stacked up on the side. I want to show you what's in this pan because this is from nearby, and unlike what I got in this pan, this ore is actually quite rich. Even though I struck out on the main vein, this is going to be a prime example of why I look for hard rock. Just watch how much more sulfides come out of here and just how much more gold. So this is a 1 bucket crush, the concentrates from a bucket, about 10 liters of rock. I've already got gold coming out in the corner. Look at that. Nuggets on nuggets. Well, for my area, nuggets, right? This is what good ore looks like. That is a fantastic result. That right there is what we're after. That's a 1 bucket crush. Let's get down to the nitty gritty of it. If you wanted to make a living off gold prospecting, that needs to cover your sustenance and your shelter at a bare minimum. And I've taken this from the averages from the Australian Bureau of Statistics. On average, it costs about $100 a week to feed a single person here in Australia. That's just your basic food costs covered. Shelter is a more tricky one. You could live very simply in nothing more than a tent out in some bushland. Or you could live in an extravagant house. So how do I quantify that? Well, I looked at this as the idea of someone starting from the very bottom, someone who didn't have very much at all and perhaps was relegated to their car. There is a reasonable amount of research done on that, and it costs on average to live cheaply but well around $800 a month here in Australia if you had a full van set up. With that being said, I'm going to say that we need to aim roughly for $250 to $300. That's a tall order. I don't think I'll have got that in the time that I put into this project. The gold price in Australia is currently $100 a gram, so I need approximately 3 grams. I put in around 18 hours total for the week into alluvial stream prospecting using a rocker box, and I put in a further 12 hours of work metal detecting and crushing rock. Obviously the crushing rock and metal detecting did not go out so well for me, so perhaps utilizing that time in the future for alluvial stream prospecting might be worth it. But having shown you guys what is possible with hard rock, it's probably still worth dabbling in if you're in the right spots. This is all the gold that I managed to recover utilizing my rocker box, including this nice picker and the piece of gold that I recovered out of the ore that had been discarded off the side of the mine. Clearly, I don't think that was worth the 12 hours of effort. Given I had essentially put in part-time hours for this week, I would like to think that whatever we get, we could safely say we could double it and probably come out with that amount. I'm thinking there's maybe a gram here. $1.25 is not too bad for the 6 hours for 3 days, so what, 18 hours, 1.25? 1.25 grams is not a huge amount of gold, I understand that, but I was utilizing a rocker box that you could make out of scrap material anywhere, and that's worth 125 Australian dollars today. If I put the same amount of time that I put into metal detecting into doing more alluvial stream prospecting, it's conceivable that I would have walked away with somewhere between 2 and 2.5 grams. That'd be about $250, and basically right in the range that I need to be able to afford a halfway decent van and my food for every week. Is it possible? I think so. It would be a hard life. And obviously scale is everything with gold prospecting. The more dirt you move, the better ground you're on, the better you can live. I think it would be fair and safe to say that if you were starting from nothing, being able to pull 125 bucks out of the ground in a little over a day's work is a pretty good gig, considering that it is free from the land and you don't really need very much equipment to get started. But I could definitely think of other ways to make considerably more money a lot quicker, like selling drugs.